Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to Week 6 of the Fantasy 15 podcast, the official fantasy football podcast of Sauce on the Side. As always, Dippers, I'm your host, Drake, joined by the producer, the man, Leighton Pip Shaventone.
Let's be honest, nobody's really surprised Matt Ryan only put up 14 points last week.
And the man, the meat stud, Mr. Lex Glasgow.
Julio really shit the bed on us hard, didn't he?
Yep.
Yes, he did. Guys, last week, we had some good picks. We had some okay picks. But Matt Ryan and Julio Jones single-handedly...
They ruined everything for us.
They ruined everything.
They ruined everything for us. They had the best spot in all of football last week, and they just shit the bed.
The chalk of all chalks is what I would call that.
Yeah, when did Julio get his first catch in the fourth quarter or the third quarter?
It was late because I know at halftime, I looked at you, I said, hey, is Julio Jones even alive?
Yeah.
He had not even caught a ball yet.
I don't think many Falcons had, really.
Well,
Lucky
for the Dippers this week, they had a minor setback this week. Here comes a major comeback against an even worse defense at home.
Yes, absolutely. That's just a little preview to what we are going to be talking about this week and what we are excited for. Guys, in case you're not familiar with how this podcast works, we break down the expensive guys, we break down the cheap guys, we run through quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, defenses, and we even talk a little bit about season-long fantasy. And, guys, the Meat Stud Stack of the Week is back. So wait and see. Before we can do anything else, you know what you have to do. Fantasy 15, a Sauce on the Side production. Alright, Lex, let's start off hot and heavy. QB1, who is your expensive price quarterback that we will be playing everywhere?
We're going back to the well. We said he's going to have a good week last week. He didn't. But this week, we're going back to Matt Ryan. So far this year, in 3 games at home, he's averaging over 32 fantasy points per game, and he's already thrown 10 touchdown passes. And he's averaging close to 320 yards. Look for him to have you a solid 32 points against the worst pass defense in football.
Lex agrees 100%.
Maybe the worst passing defense in football history.
It's bad.
It is terrible.
And Lex agrees completely. Like, I don't know, honestly, if I'll go in with a quarterback. Like, I'm going to come close to lock playing Matt Ryan at home. This is a full week in a row getting you Matt Ryan.
Yes.
I'm going to go 3 for 4. I'm going to go back 750. I'm going to go to Hall of Fame, be the best picker of all time.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going Matt Ryan, too. I mean, this is obvious. This is the chalk of all chalks, guys. 8,300. He has turned into Breeze in the Superdome at home. The 3 games Lex talked about, 29 points, 40 points, 31 points. And now he gets to play the same team that surrendered a 40-burger to Mitch. I mean, this is a slam dunk, home run, whatever you want to call it, lock button. Put him in. He will go nuclear. Cheap guys. Lex, at the cheap quarterback position, where are you going?
We're going to his counterpart this week and going to Jameis Winston. The last time he played in Atlanta, he had 4 touchdown passes, completed 70% of his passes, and had over 280 yards. I don't know about you guys, but
that's probably his only game in history doing that.
Yes, probably his only game where he had 4 touchdown passes and only 1 turnover. Look for Jameis to have close to that 30-point threshold as well. He's going to be playing from behind, I would imagine, for most of this game. And the game flow is going to favor him just throwing the ball down the field.
This week, I'm going to go Baker Mayfield. He saved $100. Over the past 3 weeks, the Chargers have allowed the most passing yards of any team in the league. At home, cheap quarterback, look like the matchup, Baker Mayfield.
I'm actually going to agree with Lex here. I'm going Jameis Winston at 7,400. You're getting an Atlanta defense that's given up 4 straight games north of 21 points. And when Atlanta is at home in the Dome, you'd expect them to be better, but they have actually been worse against the pass at home, especially whenever teams try to keep pace with them. Every single game at home for Atlanta this season, they've given up 330 pass yards and no less than 3 touchdowns. Guys, if Jameis doesn't pop this week, we'll never play him. Coming in off a bye week, he's going to have all the ducks in a row. He's going to be playing a team that is going to be as bad as any other defense that he is going to see all season. Guys, Jameis Winston is your cheap quarterback this week. Let's go to the running backs. Lex, where are you looking for an expensive running back this week?
I'm going to Melvin Gordon. They're playing on the road in Cleveland. Road games, typically, you rely on the one thing that you know is going to be there. Melvin Gordon is, like I said, he's the constant in that offense. He's a 20-point floor and a 30-point ceiling. You want him in your lineup every week if you can make it happen.
For my running back, I'm going all the way to the top in the Todd Gurley. This guy's getting 25 points a week almost. He's at Denver, victory against the run. Another guy who, for me, is almost like button play.
Yeah, I agree, guys. Todd Gurley, I'm going all in on Todd Gurley. 9,500. He could have his worst fantasy week of the season and still score you 21 points. And the Broncos have given up, just because the Lions aren't playing this week, the Broncos have given up the most rushing yards on this slate. 671 yards on the year. A huge chunk of them came against the Jets last week. So, I mean, if you're thinking that the Jets can go out there and rush for 200 yards, why can't Todd Gurley? I mean, this one's a pretty obvious one. I think that you kind of have to just sack up and spend the extra dough, go all in on Todd Gurley, because like I said, he could have 21 points and it'd be his worst game of the season. So cheap running backs, guys, where are we leaning?
I'm going down to Chris Carson. So far this year, Oakland is bottom 10 in yards per carry and yards allowed after first contact. The last two games that Chris Carson has played, he's seen a heavy workload and ran for over 100 yards. This game, I think, will favor the Seahawks running the ball. They're playing in London. I think they're going to get ahead, and I think they're going to stay ahead, and they're just going to keep feeding him the ball over and over.
So you're saying the Seahawks are going to fly well across the pond?
They're going to fly well across the pond. I don't know. They'll get there quicker than the Raiders can sail across over there.
I like it. For my running back of the week, just slow it down, take a deep breath, and think to yourself, how bad do you want to win that $1 million this Sunday?
Bad latency,
I want
bad.
it as bad as I can get it, Layton. Never wanted something
Give
so
me
bad
that
in my
$1 million
life.
pick, latency.
Just go ahead and give it to me, buddy.
Hand me that $1 million.
Give it
Stash
to
it
me.
away in my trunk.
This is like Willy Wonka's golden ticket right here, boys.
For $5,600, you get Ronald Jones II.
Huh?
The second? What happened to the first?
Who cares? He's not playing in the NFL. Inactive the first 2 weeks of the season. Week 4,
Why was he inactive?
he cannot win the playbook.
Okay.
Not the lack of skill, the lack of brains. Do you need brains to run a football? No, you do not. Week 4 against the Bears, he out-touched Peyton Barber. Coming off a bye week. Playing Atlanta, in a game that should be a shootout. Good pass catching back. And Atlanta is horrible against the running backs. This is not going to be cash play. This is going to be a play you play in a tournament with 100,000 more people. They want to win the $1 million.
I like it. I do. That's a gut call. I'm
call.
actually going with another gut call. I'm going cheap. I'm going down to 5,900. Tarek Cohen. You look at the Dolphins. They've given up 294 receiving yards to running backs this season. We saw James White explode for north of 20. We saw Dion Lewis score 19 points against the Dolphins. I think this is going to be actually a Tarek Cohen week instead of a Jordan Howard week. You're going to have weeks where we're going to be all in on Jordan Howard. But this is one of those weeks that you have to go with Tarek Cohen. I think he's going to have a monster week coming off the bye. And he had killed it going into the bye week. So I think that they're going to start to utilize him, and this is the perfect week to do that. So let's go to the expensive wide receivers. Lex, who is your wide receiver one?
Well, hopefully lightning doesn't strike twice again in 2 weeks and Julio shits the bed. But I don't think he does this week at all. I think this is finally the week where we see Julio have that touchdown. The one that's eluded him all year. He had 173 yards in his last home game. He's playing a terrible defense. Look for him to finally score. I've said it the past couple weeks, I think. He's going to score this week. And if he doesn't, I'm never picking Julio again.
Yes, if Julio Jones does not score a touchdown this week, he will not score a touchdown all season. That is my bold prediction. If he does not score this week, he will not score all season. The Bucs have already had a bye week, and they have still given up the second most touchdowns to wide receivers. Guys, 49 points per game. That's enough to hold 2 wide receivers for fantasy value. That is what the Bucs are giving up. You have to lock button Julio Jones.
Yep, it's unanimous. Julio Jones. He's $8,500. He won't be this cheap again until all those little injuries he's sustained over his career to make it probably totally fall apart.
Yeah, I agree. Julio, lock button. Got to play him. Lex, cheap option wide receiver. We might be able to sneak this guy on into our flex. Who are we going with?
Might be able to sneak him in. Do you love me, Kiki?
Oh, Kiki, do I love you?
Kiki, he's coming. Kiki's just going off the world. He's going to be a world beater this week. What is he, like 5,700?
Are you down for all?
I'm down for it all.
You down for it all?
Kiki, do you love me?
I love
Do
it.
you love winning that $1 million for me?
Dude, you can find him and Ronald Jones and this guy, basically a lock. My guy for you is Chris Rogers for the Indianapolis Colts. 5,700. The past 2 weeks, he had 11 targets in each game and 8 catches in those games. He has stayed over double digits points, playing the Jets defense. I like Chris Rogers this week, 5,700.
I'm actually going to switch it up here. I'm going with Antonio Callaway. Guys, Leighton already told you the reasons to love Baker. And Antonio Callaway, for all accounts, should be the second wide receiver on this team this week. Volume and Callaway's talent is why I'm going with him. Antonio Callaway is extremely, extremely talented. He had back-to-back games with at least 9 targets. Then he ran into the Ravens D, and he was held to 5. A lot played into that. Rashad Higgins came out and actually played a really good game. But Rashad Higgins is out. So you're looking at Antonio Callaway being the obvious second choice on this offense for Baker to go to. I think he's going to have double-digit targets, and they're going to also have to keep pace with the Chargers, who, they're going to go out there and they're going to score points, so they're going to have to keep pace. The Chargers, 5th worst on this slate against wide receivers, so I do think Antonio Callaway will have a great game. Guys, tight end, we don't really go cheap and expensive. We just throw out a couple guys that we are in love with. Lex, who do you love this week?
I'm going back to Eric Ebron this week. Since Jack Doyle's been out, he's had 36 targets in 3 games. That's insane. That is
crazy.
That is an insane workload. Andrew Luck clearly loves this guy. He loves getting him the ball in big situations. Look for Eric Ebron to have another 10 targets and another touchdown this week.
And with Eric Ebron, the Colts really don't have that guy that you'd look up as like a true blue like a true blue number 1. Like, I know that T.Y. does put up number one stats, but he's more of just a speedster. He's more of like that Tyreek Hill type guy. And I think they've been using Eric Ebron more so as an actual wide receiver than a tight end.
T.Y.'s also out again this week.
He is out again this week.
Yeah.
So they officially said he's out?
Yeah.
More love on it.
Last I saw, he's just doubtful.
He's been doubtful like all week.
Okay, so
more or less.
Yeah.
Even if T.Y. plays, I still would go with Ebron.
Yes,
I like Ebron.
But my biggest feeling on Ebron is last week got hurt. He hadn't practiced all week. Any questions for that game? I think he's going to play because he kind of has to play. They have to win this game. But if he doesn't play, tight end is kind of a shit show.
Absolutely.
I like Austin Hooper. I like David Njoku. I'll probably just mix and match those guys. Equal shares of both. But after Ebron, it's slim pickings, man.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with Cameron Brate, 4,500, and he's a guy who's been a viable tight end with O.J. Howard on the field. This week, no O.J. Howard. They knew that going into the bye week, so I think that Cameron Brate was going to be on the field with all the number 1s and getting all the reps. So you're getting a guy who's an obvious tight end 1 play at a very, very cheap price of $4,500. I think I'm going to lock and load him, and I think I'm going to go all in on Cameron Brate. I think I'm going to have him across the board. And you see the game flow with the Buccaneers. It's basically O.J. Howard between the 20s, and then once they get into the red zone, it's Cameron Brate time. And he's scored a touchdown in 2 of the 3 games he's already played. So I don't see why he wouldn't extend that streak, especially now that he's going to be seeing snaps between the 20s. He's going to have some chance for a long play instead of just a 10, 15-yard touchdown. I'm going all in on Cameron Brate. I absolutely love it. Guys, defense, who do we like this week?
I only see one that I'm playing this week. That's the Bears. The Dolphins have given up the second most fantasy points to opposing defenses. And as Leighton said earlier, the Dolphins' offense is so bad that they gave up a sack to the Raiders.
The Raiders, who have no pass rush, and who John Gruden has helped to the high heaven with the pass rush after he gave away the best one in the NFL. The Bears, Vikings, like both those teams, but I can get cheap defense. The Panthers this week are 3,900. They're coming off a bye, and they had double-digit points in 3 out of 4 games this season. They are playing at Washington, but as we saw last Monday night, that might not be the scariest thing in the world. I will have a very good amount of share of Panther defense this weekend.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with the Bears. I'm going all in on the Bears, and I really haven't been on the Bears defense a ton yet. I think this is their best matchup to date. And you look at the Dolphins and who they played so far this season. They played Tennessee. They've been decent so far this season. They played the Jets. They played Oakland, New England, and Cincy. There's really not an elite defense on there, and they've still given up 11 points per game this season to defenses. I'm going all in on the Bears. I mean, this is an elite defense playing a very, very terrible offense. So I think this is going to be a possibility for the Bears to even get like that elusive touchdown that you definitely need if you're going to hit big money. I think they give you the best chance to get a touchdown, especially because Khalil Mack's riding a wave of 4 straight games with a strip sack. And I think this is just an obvious play where he's probably going to get another one. And you're looking at this Dolphins offense. They've turned the ball over 5 times in the last 2 games against New England, against Cincinnati, 2 defenses that are not very good. So I'm all in on the Bears. I don't care what the price is on them. Just go for them. All right, so guys, big money flops. This is our time to kind of talk about guys that are expensive prices that we think will fall short of expectations. Lex, who do you have?
I'm actually going to go with Cam Newton this week. I don't like him for the price at the tip top. I can see him kind of falling off a little bit. He's coming off a bye week. But playing in Washington, typically, Washington's been pretty good at home this year. They've ruined my Packers for some reason. I don't know what the hell happened that game. And Cam Newton, really hasn't had that big game yet this year. I don't see it happening this week at all. Stay away from Cam Newton.
Yeah, a lot of the bigger, higher priced guys do have really good matchups. But I picked 2 guys. I don't love it under Hopkins. He's banged up right now. Last week, going into overtime, he only had a little over 100 yards to get that big catch again to 150. And the Bills are actually 10th against the pass, and Deshaun Watson just isn't the Deshaun Watson it used to be. And Ezekiel Elliott played the Jaguars. I'm staying clear of him.
Yeah, I think I'm going to kind of shy away from a lot of Steelers this week, with the exception of James Conner. They are going to Cincy, and we see all the production with the Pittsburgh offense. It actually declines anytime they're not at home. Big Ben's just not comfortable. And you look at a guy like Big Ben, he's really high priced this week, along with Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster. You have Juju Smith-Schuster at 78. You have Antonio Brown at 91. And I don't like this matchup because typically whenever we see Pittsburgh and Cincy match up, it's a really, really ugly game.
It's one of those divisional games where it's just, it's ugly, grind it out, see how you can win this game. It comes down to like just one lucky play and you win.
Right, and I feel like this is setting up to be one of those games for the Steelers where James Conner gets 30 carries heading into the bye week, knowing Le'Veon Bell's coming in next week. They're not even going to try to tempt fate with Ben Roethlisberger being a turnover machine on the road. I think they're just going to turn around, hand the ball off to James Conner, say do your worst, and let him just run it down their throats 30 times for probably 200 total yards. So I'm going to shy away from the Steelers, and it's hard to say that because there's so much talent there, with the exception of James Conner. So, guys, a little meat stud alert. Who do we like to pop off as a skill player for 20 and as a quarterback for 30?
I like Jameis. I like James Conner that you just said, based on the fact that he's going to get a bunch of volume. Don't be surprised if you see Dalvin Cook on there. Adam Thielen, Julio Jones, Eric Ebron. Don't be surprised if he pops off for maybe even that 30-point threshold with 3 touchdowns this game. Who do you think, Leighton?
Yeah, Keenan Allen off this week. Hasn't had touchdowns this week. One, playing the Browns. I like him at touchdown this week. Melvin Gordon, James Conner's absolute touch monsters. And then Matt Ryan. At home, it's an awful defense. Absolute number 1 lock of the week.
Yeah, I think Matt Ryan and Jameis Winston, you can easily pencil into that category. I think both guys are going to have phenomenal games. I do think Phillip Rivers is going to tickle 30 right on the back. I don't know if he's actually going to eclipse that threshold, but I really do like him. I would not be surprised, I'm going to say this with a grain of salt, I would not be surprised if Mitch Trubisky goes out there and puts up another phenomenal game. He's finally getting control of that offense, so I actually like Mitch again in this set. At the running back position, I think there's two places to go. I think there's Todd Gurley, and I think that James Conner. I think both those guys are going to pop off for 20 just because of volume. I think James Conner is going to get more carries this week than any running back has had this season. At the wide receiver position, I'm going Julio Jones. I think he's going to have a monster game. I think Adam Thielen will also... I think he's going to extend his streak. I think he's going to go for another game over 100 yards this season. And... don't be surprised if the Bears and Cameron Brate both get 20 points this week. I'm going to pencil Cameron Brate in for 2 touchdowns this week. So Lex Glasgow.
Lex Glasgow.
Lex Glasgow.
Lex Glasgow.
Lex Glasgow's Meat Stud Stack of the Week.
All right, Dippers. I usually wouldn't do this 2 weeks in a row with the same meat stud stack, but it's just too good. Looks too good. If they fuck off this week, I'm not going to play either one of them again the rest of this season. We're going back to Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. This should be the week that they pop off for that 60 points. This should be. And if it isn't, I'm never putting them in a FanDuel lineup again.
I absolutely love it. And in fact, your Meat Stud Stack of the Week does play straight in to my lineup. Guys, this is your sauce on the side, official Meat Stud lineup for Week 6. Right off the top, we're going with the Meat Stud Stack. Matt Ryan at quarterback, and then your running backs. I told you don't go anywhere else. Todd Gurley, James Conner, they're sitting right at the top, just waiting for you to grab them. Then we're going Julio Jones. Guys, how in the world can you afford all 4 of these guys? You got Julio, Todd Gurley, James Conner, Matt Ryan, all have a 30-point. I think all these guys could go off for 30 points this week. I would not be surprised. Then I'm looking at Antonio Callaway. Leighton absolutely loves Baker Mayfield in this slot, and, you know, the Chargers' pass D has been very, very poor this season. I think Antonio Callaway will get double-digit targets, and he'll find pay dirt at least once. And then Kiki. Do you love me? Yes, we're going with Kiki, 5,700. He is in a great slot against Buffalo. I think Buffalo's going to go all in on kind of stopping DeAndre Hopkins. I think that they're going to be dead set on that. They're going to try to slow the game down. I think Kiki's going to be the guy who kind of busts things open for Houston and finds pay dirt for them. For 2 weeks in a row, find pay dirt. And then Cameron Brate. Guys, I told you every reason why I love him. O.J. Howard's not there. He's 4,500. He opens up a lot of stuff that you can do whenever you use a tight end that's only 4,800. Tight end's been hard to predict this season. It seems like every time we give you a cheap one, they pop off. And then at our flex, I hate doing this. I hate doing this, but we're going to do it anyways. Mohamed Sanu. I think that Matt Ryan's going to have such a good game that he's going to produce at least 2 viable wide receivers for this week. I think Mohamed Sanu, he's kind of riding a hot hand right now. I mean, the guy had a touchdown last week with 73 yards, and then 111 yards the week prior, and then 36 yards and a score the week before that. I think he's actually lined up to have his best fantasy production of the season. I think him and Julio Jones are both going to go over 100. I really do. I think Matt Ryan's going to pop off. They are going to have a get-right game. They have to win. They're in a must-win position. They're at home. I think that 2 wide receivers are viable for Matt Ryan to produce for. And then the Bears. Bring it back with the Bears defense. Their price is a pretty good option. I mean, yes, they are the 5th most expensive, but $4,500 for a defense. It's going to be number 1 defense this week. You got to love them. Play the Bears. I absolutely am in love with this lineup. So, guys, we actually don't have any fan questions this week. So we'll go ahead and we'll talk about some guys that have been underperforming, guys that you could probably buy low at this point of the season. Who are some guys that if you're in a fantasy league that you would be looking to target at this point?
One guy that I was to the spectrum real quick. Larry Fitzgerald. I kind of think he's toast. Like he's the 60-something ranked wide receiver, and right now, if I have him, if I do have him in 2 leagues, I'm trying to trade him, but it's not going to work. I'm hoping he just pops off. And one of the guys I'm trying to buy low on right now, we kind of talked about last week again, David Johnson. Last week he had 2 touchdowns, so it's hard to say that right now. But throughout the season, I feel like he will have more games below 10 points than more than 10 points. And after he had another bad game, you try to get him for what you can.
I agree with you there, wanting to buy David Johnson low if you can, especially in these season-long leagues where, you've got guys that are panicking that are David Johnson owners and they're looking for another running back. Maybe you kind of sneak in there and you take David Johnson off his hands and say, I'll kind of just wait this out, wait till they get to that bye week and see how they can fix things up. I would buy David Johnson at this point.
Yeah, I would be. I'm a big David Johnson believer. I think he's a very good running back. I think he's a top 5 running back in the NFL. If you can go out there and snag him, absolutely do it. A couple guys that I'm really interested in right now. Derrick Henry has been absolutely abysmal this season, so you could basically get him for a song. I'm going to get him right now and just kind of hope that once the games get a little colder, in Tennessee, it's not like they're playing in Florida, like they're playing in Nashville. So the games are going to get a little colder. They're going to have to start relying on the run game more. You can get Derrick Henry for a song in your league. I would go out and get him. One guy, he's probably on your waiver wire. You add him right now. Whatever you're doing, you stop the car, pull over on the side of the road. You do whatever you need to. Because listen, Dante Foreman, the best running back on the Texans, is coming off the PUP list at the end of this week. He will be active. We're looking at a team that has gotten so desperate that they had Alfred Blue out there getting 20 carries last week for 46 yards. Lamar Miller has been so bad that he was put on the sidelines during this game. He was hurt, he was injured. He was on the injury report, but he was not out of the game. Lamar Miller's been playing so bad he didn't play a snap last week. So Alfred Blue was the bell cow. Dante Foreman comes back this week. You stop whatever you're doing. You add this guy to your team because he will help you. He will help you come playoff time. He's the best running back on the team. It can't get much worse for these teams. You have to go all in on it. And guys, right now, Shady McCoy, would you guys buy low on him, hoping that the Eagles come out and fire off an offer?
Yeah, I have to buy really low on him because I don't know if the Eagles are going to trade for him. What they would, I don't see Sean McCoy getting traded. Is my thing. And Buffalo Bill offense, I have a hard time seeing anybody, the whole team get 100 yards in a game. Let alone Shane McCoy. So it had to be for the right, really, really cheap. But I don't see him getting traded.
Definitely buy. If you can get him cheap, do it. Don't give up a bunch to get him. I mean, if we're playing the game of, I hope this guy gets traded, you might be in a bad situation if that's what you're relying on there. But I would buy him low if I could, but if I couldn't, I would just kind of stay away from it and see what I've got. Yeah. But if you are a Shady McCoy owner, you go out and you shop him now.
You're trying.
You're trying to get him off your team. And you're using the argument, hey, look at these trade rumors. Going to the Eagles. He's going back to Philly.
Yep.
Going back to Philly, baby.
Yeah, I'm almost in the camp where last week it was the first time that he clipped 100 yards in a game. He had to use rushing and passing, but that's kind of what we're used to seeing LaShawn McCoy do. And this team, they're not out of the playoff hunt. They're bad. They're 2-3 though, so it's still salvageable at this point. I think they're going to kind of ride him, and I think over the next couple weeks you could begin to explore options to trade LaShawn McCoy. Do you guys think? Okay, Wendell Smallwood or Corey Clement, one of those guys will have to basically shoulder the load until this team either makes a trade, makes a signing. Which running back in that Philly offense are you going to want the most on your team?
I prefer to have Clement. I think he's a better running back. But I don't know if I ever trust either of them to start him because last week when Clement was out, we saw Smallwood play really good and catch the ball really out of the backfield. Even tonight, he got out-touched by Clement, but he still had meaningful touches at the goal line out of the backfield. So at this point in time, I would want Clement, but I can't start either of these guys.
Actually, tonight, Smallwood did out-touch Clement.
Did he get out-touched?
He did out-touch Clement. He had 18 touches to Clement's 11. I think that's just playing a coin flip game right there with those two.
Yeah, I think that was so tough.
I don't think you go either way with them because I think they're both going to be just involved in the game plan as long as that's going.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's going to be a really hard one to decipher. Leighton, would you tell fantasy owners at this point, Ronald Jones is probably sitting on the waiver wire. If you have some pretty bad players on your team and you're looking for a running back, do you think that's a guy that you should pick up and stash and at least watch for through the weekend? Because if this guy goes out there and he does, what you expect him to actually take control of that running back position, have a really good game, people are going to be flying onto him. Do you think he's a guy that you should go ahead and pick up right now?
Yeah, anything I said earlier, just gotta play that again. Playing Atlanta, bye week, should get more touching play about it again, all that stuff. But when making your roster, actually go through and look at your roster and say, will I ever start player X? There's one guy in your roster you have on there because you like him, but deep down you know you can never actually start him. Go get a player like a Dante Foreman or like a Ronald Jones that has a super high ceiling at some point in time this season and just stash them and just hope that they can break out at some point in time. Because, let's be honest, you're never going to start Pierre Garçon.
No, I absolutely love that too. I think you're 100% right. Guys, one wide receiver, just real quick before we wrap this show up. One wide receiver that I'm looking at that I think guys should go out and target because I think that he is going to really pop off towards the end of the season. And he's a tough one to decide because he's played some pretty bad offenses or defenses, but I think that they're going to start to have to stretch the ball more with Joe Flacco kind of putting his butt on the hot seat, Lamar Jackson getting more snaps. John Brown, where do you guys stand on him? Do you guys think that his production's going to go up? He is 13.5 fantasy points per game, but do you think that his production towards the end of the season is going to go up or regress? So would you buy or sell on him?
I'm buying John Brown hard right now. I'm buying him while he's still low. He shouldn't really be that low at this point in time, but he is because, it's freaking John Brown. I'm buying him low any chance I get.
I don't know if I don't see him getting any better as the season goes on. I don't see him getting any worse. I think he's kind of just where he's going to be. I think the only thing that can help him is if Joe Flacco just continues to trust him going down the stretch, and if they decide to stretch the ball out. I honestly think the Ravens might win that division this year. And, the way it's going, John Brown, they really haven't used Michael Crabtree yet. We haven't really looked at Michael Crabtree, and they went out and they made it a point to get him. I could see Michael Crabtree coming in at some point and starting to take away from John Brown, so I wouldn't go out and just buy hard on him like Leighton.
See, I'm kind of on the other side here with John Brown. Guys, listen to this. 14 targets, 4 receptions. That's a fourth of his catch. He's almost at like a 30% catch percentage. And then the week before that, 7 targets with 3 receptions, so below 50. And then the Denver game, he was 9 for 5, just north of 50, but he produced at a high level. And then the Cincinnati game, he was back at his 40% catch rate. That's got to go up at some point. So you're looking at a guy who's getting 4 catches per game, but he's getting north of 10 targets. I think I would be all in on buying this guy, just for the simple fact that over his last 4 games, 10 targets per game, catching 40% of his balls, that is pathetic. That is pathetic. If it gets up to 50, even 60, this guy is going to be a fantasy monster. I think he'll be wide receiver 2. I think you should go in and look at getting John Brown because I think you can get him for the right price. So, guys, anything else before we wrap this bad boy up?
As always, this is a show. It's at one time. Play it back, take notes on it, do it while making your lineups, do it while you're on lunch, do it 3 or 4 times. Make sure you really take in anything we're talking to you about. Give you a lot of information in 35 minutes.
My balls are hot, boys.
And on that note, for Drake, for Lex, and Leighton, Dippers, as always, stay saucy.